welcome back to the Tailgate, guys. Sarah here with my good friend Chris Mackey, who's the extension agent in Unicoi County. He does agriculture work up there. We're beginning a 3-part series on Tailgate University where we talk about genetics and EPD. What we wanted to do is talk about the basics of EPDs and how commercial cattlemen can use them in their herds without getting totally bogged down in all the different numbers that you can use.
Well, first off, thanks to Sarah and Milton for letting me come by and tag team on this short mini-series that we're doing. Like Sarah said, we're going to be talking about EPDs today, and specifically gearing those towards your commercial cattlemen producers. However, if you're standing there or sitting there listening to this and you're a purebred producer or interested in the purebred business, it really doesn't matter. The information that we're going to have is very much relevant for both sectors of the beef cattle industry. So first off, let's define what expected progeny differences, or EPDs are. EPDs are expected progeny differences, and they are just one of the many tools that we as cattle producers utilize as a not only management but a selecting tool when
we're picking out the next generation. Maybe that's replacements, maybe it's a new herd bull.
That's exactly right, or even a donor female. So like I said, one of the many tools that we can use, and it is fairly new and is continually evolving as advancements in technology usually always do. So expected progeny differences. The first word is one that I want you to focus on: expected. Before we get into talking about EPDs, understand that these are not set in stone. That while an animal can have superior genetics, it doesn't mean that every single progeny is going to follow in line with how those numbers correlate. So just keep that in mind, that it is expected and is not 100% guaranteed true. So EPDs, really when you look at them, should only be used as a comparison. And you're going to compare those between both parents, or you're going to compare those as, let's say you've got 2 bulls and you want to know which one is going to have more growth or maybe more maternal traits.
Exactly.
So that's what we're going to talk about later, and how to calculate the differences. But first, after we've defined the differences, we need to also talk about accuracy, because accuracy is probably just as important as the numbers itself. Now, accuracy falls from a 0.01 to a 0.1, with numbers closest to 0.1 or 0.999, I guess, means that they are more accurate and they are more dependable rather than lower accuracy numbers such as a 0.01. And those will be usually expressed just directly underneath the number for that given trait. Now, Sarah, how do we get accuracy numbers?
How do we get accuracy numbers? There's 2 different ways. By having that animal have progeny, whether that's a cow having calves or whether that's a bull siring those calves. The more progeny, the higher the accuracy, the more accurate that EPD number is. The other way is through genomic testing. We can actually do a DNA test on a calf that's 3 days old and figure out, depending upon what trait it is, what that EPD is going to be with a very high degree of accuracy before it's even a week old, simply through a blood test. So that is a tool that a lot of registered producers are using to up those accuracies and help people who are buying those females or buying those bulls know exactly what they're getting, because depending upon the difference in its accuracy, that gives you a range for that EPD. So if it's a birth weight EPD of 0.2 but the accuracy is really low, that EPD could vary by up to 5 to 7 pounds even. Yep. That can be a big deal.
That's exactly right. And it's not uncommon to see these new sires or new females that just have come out in production to have extremely high growth numbers or really, really good calving ease numbers. As those progeny records are coming in, it's definitely going to change.
Yes.
Sometimes for the better, sometimes, and maybe sometimes more often, maybe for the worse. So, but using those genomics and that genetic testing actually goes ahead and gives us a better indication of what that animal or how that animal is going to perform in its given environment. Now, there are 2 main categories that we kind of put EPDs into, and those are our terminal traits and our maternal traits. Maternal being more on the female side of things, terminal for growth and calves that are more geared towards going to the food chain.
Exactly.
Sarah, what are some of the maternal traits that you look at when selecting new sires?
Some of our maternal traits that we want to pay a whole lot of attention to are going to be birth weight, of course. That's going to be represented as BW in most breeds. We want to pay close attention to calving ease. Sometimes that's represented as calving ease direct, sometimes it's just calving ease, but that tells us the degree of difficulty that animal's progeny are going to have giving birth in the future. And then also milk, because that's an indicator, if I can write, that's an indicator of their ability to produce milk for their granddaughters.
That's right. Now, some of the terminal traits that we look at, there's really two big ones. And the first one's weaning weight. That's expressed as WW, and the second as yearling weight. And you can guess, it's very self-explanatory. The weaning weight number comes from the value of that calf that weighs at approximately 205 days, whereas the yearling weight is going to be the estimated weight at 365 days. So those are really the two main ones that we look at when looking for our terminal growth columns as well.
A couple of last comments I would make before we wrap this video up is always make sure that you are paying close attention to multiple EPDs. Don't just single trait select. Classic example is the Angus breed has chased low birth weight to the point where it's become detrimental in some cases. So always make sure that you are making a balanced choice, whether you're picking a herd sire or replacement females. We want to make sure that we're paying attention to all of the columns. You don't have to get bogged down in every single one, but make a balanced decision. Also, make sure that you are comparing within a breed. You can't really compare an Angus to a Charolais or Hereford to a Simmental because those EPDs are calculated in a different way.
EPDs are updated usually weekly or semi-annually, and so these numbers are constantly changing the amount of times that records are coming in. Also, that accuracy number is going to change as those numbers come in. So the more records that you have, they're going to change that number, but more importantly, they're going to change that accuracy. So be sure to watch that accuracy and use those more dependable numbers.
One last thing on accuracy, and then I promise we're done. Sometimes on those EPDs, you will see an I out in front of them. That means it's an interim number. Those numbers are not founded in hard science. We usually see that when the accuracies are really low. Typically, we think of that I in front of those numbers meaning investigate, do a little bit more digging, go back a generation or two, see what those EPDs were, then I'll give you an idea of how that animal is going to perform. Chris, thanks for stopping by the tailgate with us.
Thanks, guys.
Tune in for the next video. Bye.